This is the future. And humanity is all but extinct.
First, they start skipping prescribed drug dosages. Then they begin touching.
I volunteer as tribute!
You can stop this. You can change things.
I know that there's something more.
Then we've only got one choice. We fight.
Fight the Future with Dan and Paul.
Welcome to Fight the Future with Dan and Paul. And I'm Dan.
I'm Paul. And today we're going to be talking about Battle Royale.
Yes, the Japanese movie from 2000. Widely condemned as being horrific.
I watched it on Netflix and it says that this movie has not been rated in North America, but in Japan it was, rated 16 plus or 15 plus or something. So
this is heavy duty shit.
Yeah.
Which it is. I almost didn't think I was going to make it through it. First of all, because we watched a lot of movies about children being killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically all the movies we've watched. And I'm like, do I really want to watch a movie with people with exploding collars? 15-year-olds shooting each other.
Turns out the answer was yes. Yes, I do.
Yes. Fortunately, I persevered.
Yeah, I like you actually sent me an email saying, could you watch this with me over Skype?
Can you watch this with me?
And I said, nope, I'm busy. Sorry.
Heart of stone.
Yeah. Harsh, but you know what? I think you learn to stand on your own.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah, the thing is that once I saw my first collar explode, it was better after that because it was really ridiculous. Bright red blood spraying everywhere. Still not one that our mom should watch.
No. Spoiler alert for this podcast, obviously. If you have not watched or read Battle Royale, there's going to be spoilers here. And also, yeah, if your mother is planning on watching this, maybe don't.
I can't believe Mom has watched all of our movies so far. We're brothers, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
She even watched The Host.
I know when Hunger Games came out, and when it was sort of a big thing, a lot of sort of hipster-type people were like, well, it's just basically Battle Royale, but, worse.
Which is annoying to me. I mean, some stories come up over and over, and... what about fucking Joseph Campbell, Hero of a Thousand Faces?
Right.
You are the chosen one.
There's all sorts of different nuances to having children fight each other to the death. And it's important to explore every single one.
Yeah. And over the course of this podcast, we will find every possible nuance to that. Yeah. But, this one has a very different tone. This is a war and a horror movie wrapped into one.
Horror war. I believe is the technical term for that.
Ah, okay, catchy. Whereas The Hunger Games is a PG-13 action-adventure movie.
Right.
Which seems, a little tasteless. This is a much crueler movie than The Hunger Games in some ways. It's not sanitized. Partly because of the ridiculous gore, but also just that people get into horrific situations where they end up killing the wrong person. In The Hunger Games, all the kills are sort of clean in a way.
Yeah, there's certainly a sense of it being much less controlled than in Hunger Games. Hunger Games is being constantly monitored and the whole arena is being controlled and everything is being broadcast. Whereas in the Battle Royale, they're just kind of like, here's a bunch of weapons, go to it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've kind of been aware of this movie as a legend for a long time. I was almost surprised it came out in 2000.
It was a book originally in 1999, I believe.
According to Wikipedia, the novel was rejected from a horror novel competition for being too disturbing. So it was disturbing, but on the other hand, it also had these elements of melodrama and teen romance that somehow made it all go down, I won't say easily, but...
I can imagine that the book, where all the things are just, you're just generating them all in your own head, is probably somewhat more traumatizing than the movie.
Yeah, this actually cast real 15-year-olds, which, is more disturbing in some ways, but is also quite adorable, So we're going to take on Battle Royale in the way that we do all young adult dystopias, talk about the plausibility, talk about the scariness, and how would we do, there may be a little twist there.
Alrighty.
The story.
The movie opens with information that apparently kids are out of control in Japan. And so they have decided to pass the Battle Royale laws. Among those laws are that they're going to have one class of kids fight to the death every year. And it's sort of interesting that it's kind of...
Yeah, there's not much explanation for that.
Yeah, the connection between those two aspects and like, really? That's they're going to make kids fight to the death? That's actually just like a law that can be passed? Okay. But it's sort of part of the whole thing is kind of getting a lot of that kind of stuff out of the way as quickly as possible to get to the actual fighting part.
Yeah, it's really not a lot about coherent explanations for things. Because pretty soon we're on this bus for the school trip, a cheerful class of students, Japanese students, 15 years old, on their way to a school trip, and they're all gassed.
Mm-hmm. So unlike something like the Hunger Games or whatever, it's all the kids that are going, the class is chosen at random, but all of the kids are from one class. So they take 42 kids from this one class, and they're all going to go fight. So they wake up in this sort of abandoned schoolhouse.
On an island that's been evacuated, as we find out, so that they can fight each other on it. There's a satirical explanation video.
Very perky video telling us about the rules for this whole endeavor. And it's basically that they all have collars locked around their necks that can make their heads explode.
Yeah, and it happens once during the briefing talk, which is really horrifying.
Yeah, so they aren't messing around. The guy in charge is just like, you know what? I'm going to blow your head up. Beep, boom.
Yeah. Takeshi Kitano, anyway, is the boss in a tracksuit.
Mm-hmm.
He's quite terrifying Japanese actor.
Who also happens to be this particular class's 7th grade teacher. So he was this class's teacher 2 years ago.
He quit after some of these rampaging students stabbed him in the leg.
Yeah. So he kind of knows a lot of the kids, and he is not particularly well disposed towards most of them.
Yeah, he has this kind of grumpy attitude, basically, like, okay, you kids are a big pain in my butt.
Yeah, actually reminds me a lot of like a phys ed teacher that is forced to fill in for another teacher for some reason.
Yeah, that's perfect. Because, yeah, he's wearing this tracksuit, and he's like seemingly a little bit unconfident about his position.
So they're given the rules, and it's basically they're on the small island, and after 3 days, if there's more than one person left alive, everybody's collar explodes. So everybody dies if there's more than one person left alive at the end.
They were given these big duffel bags that have supplies and also a weapon that is a randomly chosen weapon.
Yeah.
Our hero, the main character, I guess, Shuya Nanahara, he gets a pot lid as his weapon.
Yeah.
Some people get submachine guns.
The class is only actually 40 people, but there are 2 people who are nobody knows. They're older than everybody else. So we don't quite know what they're there for, but they seem to just kind of know how the whole game goes.
The first murder is somebody gets shot in the neck with an arrow from a crossbow, 15-year-old kid, and it's on.
They lose no time, too. Like, that kid is shot in the neck with a crossbow as he leaves this schoolhouse.
Yeah, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's 42 of them, so we don't get a lot of differentiation, but the main characters are the Shuya and Noriko, who's the girl, and they have some kind of...
And Noriko got binoculars as her weapon, too. So they both kind of...
pot lid and binoculars.
Drew the bad draws.
I guess it would have been different if they'd gotten machine guns early on and shot 10 of their classmates.
Yeah, who knows how it could have gone.
Yeah, so it's like the Hunger Games in that they don't end up killing many people randomly.
Mm-hmm.
But many people do,
Yeah.
unlike the Hunger Games. So they're all let loose on this island, all running around in the bushes.
It takes quite a while for people to kind of even realize that it's serious.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes of one person being like, hey, you're my friend, right?
Yeah.
And being blown away by the other person.
I mean, the plot is basically our 2 main characters that we're following, are sort of going throughout this stuff and just, various scenes of people getting shot or dying or in various ways.
Yeah, they're like little playlets. All their past history comes out. People who are bullies of other people. Sometimes the victim gets revenge. Sometimes there's a misunderstanding and someone gets angry and kills someone.
Mm-hmm.
At least a couple of people kill themselves. All on the first day, by the way.
Just jump off a cliff or something, just to not deal with the whole situation. Quite early on, Noriko gets a flesh wound. She gets sliced a little bit by a guy attacking them, and she starts to get sort of a fever and sick. And so they take refuge in what seems to be sort of abandoned infirmary. But it turns out that is actually already occupied by
Shogo.
Shogo, yes.
So he's the ringer that you described before. A bit older, seems to know more about the games, but he becomes an ally of theirs.
He helps them out and uses some medical training to bind up Noriko's wound, and they have some food and stuff. And then they are attacked by the other sort of ringer guy, who we've seen on a couple of occasions before, has gone out and deliberately, I guess it's not surprising that he's deliberately killing people, but gleefully killing people, and in particular targeting people who have good weapons and taking those weapons. So he now has like a machine gun and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, he's got big, spiky, blonde anime hair and a really nasty attitude.
And we find out from Shogo that he actually just volunteered to do this. Because he gave him an opportunity to kill people.
Right, so some people go psycho, as we find out. And there's another girl named Mitsuko who is also gleefully killing people left and right.
Yeah.
So a lot of the killing is done by a small number of people, but then there are a lot of horrible incidents that are just accidents or desperate people.
So during this fight, Shuya actually runs off to lure this guy attacking them away and ends up getting shot and falls into the water, seemingly to die. But then he's rescued by this sort of, kind of commune that's been set up.
In the lighthouse.
I think it's 6 of the girls in the class have kind of banded together in this lighthouse, which is sort of a highly defensible position, I guess. So this is what's kind of interesting about it all being one class as opposed to people taken from random. It's that in class, obviously, Shuya, was a pretty nice kid and everything, and so they feel okay. They bring him into this lighthouse and kind of patch him up.
Right. So one of the girls in the kitchen, they're all preparing a cheerful dinner, saw him murder the boy she likes.
It's because another kid attacked them earlier with an axe.
Yeah, which ends up stuck in his head comically, Steve Martin style. So they're going to bring him some food, and it turns out that her weapon was a little vial of poison, which she puts in his food.
But unfortunately, another girl comes in right at that moment and goes, "Oh, great, food, I'm so hungry," and eats a bunch of it. And then the poison kills her rather gruesomely.
Extremely gorily way. I was eating pad thai curry.
Oh, no.
Thai green curry at the time.
Yeah,
I'm it's interesting that I can keep eating while I'm watching her vomiting blood everywhere.
Which everyone's like, oh my God, one of us is trying to kill everybody. And then it becomes this whole, it would be funny because it's all a big misunderstanding if it wasn't for the fact that they all have guns and have now killed each other.
That's right. Yeah, so they all, in this little kitchen in the space of a minute, all 6 girls are dead.
Yeah, and so our hero hears all this gunfire going on and comes sort of stumbling out and just sees this carnage in the kitchen and goes, what the hell happened here? But he has to go to meet Noriko and Shogo at this shrine that they found earlier. So he grabs the weapons, what weapons he can carry, and continues on. The other thing that we start seeing is that 3 other boys, I guess they're sort of the nerdy guys, have also banded together. They've set up shop in this sort of abandoned warehouse, and one of the guys is sort of a computer hacker type, and also he's been taught a little bit of stuff about like how to make Molotov cocktails and this kind of stuff, certain types of explosives.
Yeah, so they start building a bomb with pesticides and stuff.
They find sort of a cache of a whole bunch of dead cell phones and broken electronics and stuff, and he kind of cobbles together a working computer and starts hacking into the mainframe that's sort of controlling everything, and they have like tracking devices on their collars.
Yeah, so from time to time we cut to Takashi Kitano back in the office. He gets a call from his daughter saying, "Don't bother to come back home." that he's getting a call from home, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm at work. I'm totally tied up. Then all the computers go down. But that doesn't really add up to anything, right? They just reboot them?
Yeah, they put the computers down to create that distraction.
But unfortunately, Kiriyama finds them first, the blonde killer guy.
Yeah.
And mows them all down with his machine gun. The hacker guy manages to set off the explosives, and he seems to be caught in the explosion. Our heroes, Shuya, Noriko, and Shogo, show up at the site of this. Everything's in flames, and he's wandering around, the blonde killer.
And so he and Shogo sort of go toe-to-toe, trying to take each other out.
He's been blinded, as it turns out, but he still can fire at the source of Shogo's gunfire and hits him too.
And so then it seems to be that there's just the three of them left. We're now on the third day, and if the third day goes by and there's more than one person left, everybody's collar is going to explode. Suddenly, Shogo turns on the other two and goes, haha, we go to the control center and we hear them get shot. And so it appears that Shogo is the winner. But it is not the case. It's actually all a ruse.
That's right. When he shows up at Takashi Kitano's place at this abandoned schoolyard, there doesn't seem to be any kind of party waiting for him.
No,
as the winner.
It's a pretty somber affair.
Yeah, Takashi Kitano's just sitting there on the couch by himself, looking pretty pathetic. So Shuya and Noriko show up and soon have him at gunpoint.
Mm-hmm.
There doesn't seem to be any provisions for taking the weapons away from the winner either.
We find out that Shogo has actually figured out how to disable the collars. The teacher tries to activate his explosive collar and nothing happens.
At this point, we find out that he has a creepy obsession with Noriko, and he pleads with her to kill him, but no such luck. Shuya kills him instead.
Yeah.
He then takes a call.
Yeah, so he is lying about to die, and then
filled
suddenly
with bullet wounds that are right through him.
Suddenly has kind of a second wind and gets up, and they're all like put their guns at him, but it turns out he's just answering the phone. His daughter is on the phone. He sort of has this sort of final angry conversation with his daughter. They don't make up or anything, and then he dies. It's a very odd sort of scene, but
yeah, it's great.
The three of them then head off on a boat, but Shogo falls to his wounds, and so the two of them go off on their own. And now they're fugitives. I love there's like a newspaper at the end where it's like, accused of murder. It's like, really? Yeah, they've definitely killed a lot of people. That was kind of the whole objective of the thing that you
complicated
for them.
Charge. Yeah. Self-defense, maybe? But yeah, they have the universal fugitive uniform of a baseball cap.
Yeah, sunglasses.
Plausibility.
So I think we need a different approach, Paul, for this one.
Okay.
It's obviously insane.
Yes.
The Hunger Games takes a lot of trouble to sort of make it seem like it's something that could happen in this.
Well, and the Hunger Games also
world.
Establishes a completely different futuristic world where the rules are a little different.
Yeah, whereas this one looks exactly like ours. There's a couple of high-tech things, like the collars, but then the equipment that they're monitoring them with looks like it's from the 80s.
Yeah, like I think we could probably make collars like that now if we wanted to. We just don't.
Sure. Yeah, Apple could do it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what those watches actually are. Commentary. So it's this leap. Why? What? Like, there's not even an explanation for why it exists. Apparently in the book there is. Did you see this? That in the book, it's actually kind of like the Hunger Games, where it's a device to terrorize the population and show them who's boss. But yeah, they all seem surprised when they end up on the island.
Yeah, and they don't know any of the rules, and they don't know...
They're shocked.
Yeah. There's no indication that there's any contact with the outside. Like, there's no... It's not...
There's not televised, yeah.
It's not being televised. Well, I mean, there aren't cameras, even. So it seems to be sort of in secret, but then we also see at the beginning the winner from the previous Battle Royale, who's this 15-year-old girl, like, covered in blood.
Holding a stuffed rabbit.
Is sort of being interviewed by the press. It's not like it's being done in secret, but it doesn't seem to be that prominent.
It's sort of low key.
Yeah. We kill 41 kids every year, but we don't make a big deal about
It
it.
doesn't have to make the news every year.
Yeah. Only if something interesting happens.
So we have to just accept that as like dream logic. One thing that got me about that, though, is if it's not televised, why give everybody these ridiculous weapons? Like, if nobody can appreciate it, it's just sadism with nobody around to enjoy it. Like, there's nobody to appreciate the joke of giving somebody a pot lid. Maybe it's just whoever was packing the bags enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's a lot of situations where it almost seems like for the amusement of the people just sort of running it.
So we could imagine that it was Takashi Kitano who came up with all this stuff, but then it seems like not really.
No, I mean, but he does seem to be very much in charge.
Like, he's insane and he's in charge, but it's not his insanity that designed this whole thing.
I was thinking the two things that are different from the Hunger Games that make it really different is it's all one class, so they all know each other really well. And the second thing is they have no adjustment period.
Right.
Whereas in the Hunger Games, they find out that you are going to be in the Hunger Games, and there's like a couple weeks before the Hunger Games actually happens.
And also your whole life.
Right, to know that it's happening.
Yeah, so the Hunger Games is about a culture where this exists. Whereas this is not. This is just a bunch of teens thrown right into it.
And so in terms of plausibility, like I think the fact that, like, for one thing, quite a few kids just commit suicide is pretty plausible, with no time to react to it, really. Just being thrown into this situation that seems impossible.
Yeah, no one commits suicide in the Hunger Games except nobly.
Right, because if you were doing that, you would have done it much before the show actually started.
I guess so, yeah.
The other thing is that there's a few hookups, which you might expect for 15-year-olds who think they're about to die.
As I was watching it, I suddenly realized all the stuff that's edited out of the Hunger Games, which kind of makes it, gross in a certain way, that it's sanitized in this way. Nobody in the Hunger Games is really a sadistic fuck. There's none of these ironic deaths that happen, or people getting really passionate even, or bitterness, revenge. People will correct me that there's a few examples of this, but it's nothing that feels like this crazy horror of war.
Yeah, it's obviously very, very messed up. It's basically one step removed from waking up in like a Saw style.
It definitely has a huge horror component. And the Hunger Games has no horror component at all.
Right.
And yeah, like you said, there's hookups and other awful sex stuff.
And also not just sort of hookups, but also just people confessing their feelings for other people, or
yeah, it's very incongruous, the sort of anime high school stuff that happens.
Well, yeah, but it's again, these are people who have known each other for actually a really long time, but in an entirely different context.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess it's plausible, but it's very melodramatic. Oh, here's something that seems more plausible than the Hunger Games as well. People rejecting the games. Like,
yeah,
people
that's
actively fighting to bring down the games.
Right, which, in the second Hunger Games, obviously, they do that a bunch, but that's sort of a special thing. The monitoring of the people is not as heavy duty as is in Hunger Games. Like in the Hunger Games, if somebody had set up the thing like in the lighthouse, where they're all kind of just living together and doing the thing, then they'd be like, that's interesting. The lighthouse is on fire now.
Yeah. There's less complete control of the environment.
Right.
And more just the callers and people with guns.
And we'll just see what happens. When there's the big massacre in the lighthouse, as they're dying, somebody is sort of like, we could have all made it out. And that's an interesting point, right? It's this thing where if as soon as they left the schoolhouse or whatever, all 40 of them got together and turned their weapons on the people fighting them, they probably wouldn't have had too much problem.
Right. It's a sort of a prisoner's dilemma thing.
Yeah.
So people immediately start shooting each other as soon as they leave the place. So the first guy to shoot someone, how did that happen? Like, did you believe it?
Yeah, I did. I think like it was because I think what was quite powerful and probably intentional on the part of the people running the whole program was they killed 2 kids in the briefing. One kid had his collar explode and the other kid just died because the guy threw a knife in his face. I think if that hadn't happened, because the idea that, killing people is a real thing that's really happening wouldn't have sort of started out so quickly.
So you're saying that it's basically like the adults that set the tone. They said, this is the way that it works, and kind of stopped the kids from realizing that they could group together and do things peacefully, or turn the guns on their oppressors. Yeah, I mean, they really did give them a lot of weapons altogether. And there's more of them than there are soldiers.
Yeah, and they gave them, machine guns and all sorts of stuff. And the other thing that I actually quite like, from a plausibility standpoint, is there's a lot of situations of, you give a 15-year-old kid a gun and has never fired a gun before. He shoots a lot and doesn't hit anything.
Right.
It's not as easy as it looks in whatever, video games or movies, other movies.
Right. And there's a part where the hacker guy sort of tries to do a flip off a car and fails and gets shot. So some people do act like real action heroes, but other people are just like real kids. Okay, why have a winner? There's no real reason for it to be a game like this.
If there isn't any winner, then they definitely band together and fight. Like, if there isn't any winner,
then they have nothing to lose.
Then there's no reason to fight each other. You have to have a winner.
Everybody wants to survive.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. So the adults kind of trick them into thinking it's a zero-sum game. It's my only chance to survive is to kill. But to their credit, a lot of the kids reject this. And that makes it a better story than the first Hunger Games movie anyway, because that, they didn't reject it until the end. Like in real life, it's quite hard to get people to kill each other. Like soldiers have to be very specially trained, and then often they fail to do what they're supposed to do as far as shooting people. I was just reading about the Northern Italy First World War in this book. I'm in Northern Italy, by the way. Yeah, there's just warfare stuff everywhere around here. And apparently there were a lot of incidents that were documented of one side charging towards the other, getting just mowed down with machine guns, and then they stop the other side with the machine guns and go, hey, you guys go back. We really don't want to have to kill you all.
Wow.
Stop it.
And you see that in Battle Royale, where the vast majority of the killing is only done by a couple of people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of either reluctant or desperation killing. There's only a couple of people who are really, really sort of playing the game.
Scariness.
Well, there's an implication that the reason why this is going on is because there's like rampaging gangs of kids going around in the real world, in the rest of the world.
But they don't really show that.
No.
Like, it's not like If or something.
It seems like if you're a person in this world, your 15th year, grade 9, is extremely stressful. Be very concerned anytime you get put into a group situation. I think maybe I won't go on the field trip. Oh, no, I didn't get my permission slip signed. Darn.
Ma'am, are we definitely going to the forestry museum? We're not going to be gassed and made to fight each other?
Yeah. Can I have my gas mask? It's medical.
Yeah, so if you make it through, but we don't know anything about the outside world. Apparently there's more in the book, that it's some kind of fascist society.
I mean, obviously a society that allows the Hunger Battle Royale games to exist can't be very pleasant.
That's true, yeah, and we see it being covered by mainstream news. It's sort of sanctioned by the society. It's not secret.
So the idea that they are at the point that they think that's a good thing implies that there's a lot of other stuff that's super messed up.
But did it bother you that it was a happy ending? I was really...
No.
I was bummed about that for some reason.
You wanted more people to die?
Yes. Blood, I tell you. I just felt like it kind of makes the whole thing a bit fluffy. I mean, they don't even seem that traumatized at the end. They're just like, we're off on a new adventure, on the run. So to me, for it to have meaning, everybody's got to die. But, oh well. I mean, that's an easy ending too. Okay, so here's something. So the diabolical technology, the idea of this collar, I mean, it's not particularly original, but it's still frightening to think about. It tracks your location, and it can end your life instantly in a horrific way. It doesn't actually explode your head, it explodes your throat. But
Right.
similar. So we see this in other young adult dystopias, where you have an implant injected into your body.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty common trope, both in dystopia stuff and also in, like, secret agent things.
Yeah, I was thinking Mission Impossible 3, where Philip Seymour Hoffman has the power to make your brain explode. And yeah, it's a kind of a body horror, the horror that your body belongs to this more powerful organization, sinister group of people. Yeah, that was creepy.
Yeah, not fun. The Hunger Games is interesting in that respect, in that they don't have that part. Like, they don't have I'm surprised they don't, really, with everything else they have. But they don't have the whole bomb in the brain thing. They just have absolute control of the entire environment. So
Yeah, they can make like the trees jump on top of you or something.
yeah, they can't put a bomb in your brain, but they can make the air unbreathable, or the ground under your feet is now a bomb. So it's probably okay.
All the chipmunks attack you. Yeah.
How would they do?
So should I open this up now?
Yeah, open it up. Okay, so Paul, for How Would They Do this time,
Oh,
I have sent you a file.
oh, hey.
It is your yearbook from when you were 15. I want you to look at the faces of your classmates. This is who you would be on an island with. If there was some kind of Battle Royale legislation, God forbid,
Yeah.
that was enacted in Canada in 1999, which ones would be the killers? Which ones could you take?
Page 47?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so pick a face. Tell me how you think you would confront them.
So who do I take
Okay,
out?
I'm looking at your adorable picture here.
Who do I take out first, is what you're saying?
What about Mark Shorty?
Mark Short? Yeah, I sort of remember him. He was, I think he was a pretty tall guy, ironically named. I think he was on the rugby team.
Okay, so you won't use physical force.
Right. Like, it seems like the sort of, cliques that exist would kind of, at least at the beginning, would kind of stick together in some ways.
So were you part of a clique?
Yeah. We always used to, like, hang out at the computer lab and that
Okay,
kind
so
of stuff.
who are the computer lab friends? First and last names.
Nicholas Wagner here,
Uh-huh.
who I'm still kind of friends with. The other Paul, Thomas McCartan, Murray McCullough. I mean, these are all
Okay.
just people who are my friends, but
So Paul, Nicholas, Thomas, and you. You're defending while you work on tech stuff. And who's attacking you? Would it be the jocks?
I mean, I feel like we would be fairly low down on the priority list for the jocks. Like, maybe they would come at us, once they had dealt with more high priority targets. St. Michael's has, like, the borders, right? Like, there's the kids from overseas that actually lived on campus.
Right, so they'd be tight.
So they'd be real tight, and they would be quite a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, so the borders versus the non-borders.
Yeah.
That would be the first line of division.
Unfortunately, that ends up being kind of racial profiling, because
Yeah, they're mostly Chinese, right?
most of them are, Chinese or Japanese.
Uh-huh.
Conveniently looking like the kids from the movie.
Including the uniforms.
Yeah, it's really tough, because it's
Was a while ago.
Nick was a guy who I really didn't like.
Okay.
We got off on the wrong foot somehow, and he always picked on me.
So would he kill you or would you kill him, do you think?
I think it would be a tough one. Like, I think he was a pretty big guy, but I think I would surprise him with my ferocity.
Ah. I've seen that in that video of the social anxiety fear factor. It's frightening.
I remember one time we were playing soccer and I was on defense, and one of the very skilled soccer players, sort of jock guys, was coming down the side and, on a complete breakaway. And it was just like I was the only one protecting the goal. For lack of anything better to do, I just kind of, gritted my teeth and went sort of, "Urgh!" And he started laughing so hard that he missed kicking the ball and was able to get it away from him.
So we have a survival strategy for you, Paul.
Yes. Surprise is the key factor.
To humor.
Yeah.
And humor is your key to survival, Paul.
Yeah. Because while they're laughing, they are disabled.
You have to be like tripping over your rifle strap.
And and then bang. And
a
at least
15-year-old
expect it.
Exactly. Bullet in the head is what your humor gets.
I appear to be extremely non-threatening until the very last moment.
You die laughing.
Yes.
Okay. I guess it's my turn.
All right. So what have you... Obviously, you've had a lot more time to plan elaborate demises for your fellow students.
You would think so, but not so much. I'm just going to look at it now. Just a sec. Jenny Reed. Okay, in that year, she beat me for the computer science first.
Ooh.
So
clearly has to die.
We have a beef. But she was very nice and friendly, so it was hard to hold too much of a grudge. But I have the feeling that she would do what was necessary, that she'd collaborate with other girls, and they'd form like a squad, a death squad to take down different people.
Mm.
I don't really think that
she would be the leader of the death squad, you think?
Probably. That's not true. I don't think that. I think they'd probably be the girls in the lighthouse. I can't really go through with that. Okay, let's see who inspires something. I see all these cute faces, and I see them all as potential killers. Bryce Soderbergh, who is now the only person from my class who's on Wikipedia. He's a famous bass player in a rock band.
Nice.
Called Lifehouse. Man, I just like these people a lot. I'm trying to think of ones.
It's not... I don't know if I like this.
Yeah, it's kind of mean.
Yeah, it is. You sound so surprised to think that looking at a bunch of people who you know and deciding which ones to kill would be mean.
I mean, I do think the jocks would be together because they spend a lot of time on teams together. Mm-hmm. So they have those firm bonds. Whereas the computer science people, we would just be in the lab side by side. I mean, we would play games together, but we would not be so...
They would probably be inclined to stick together at the beginning because they just out of habit, but they would probably turn on each other pretty quick.
You're saying I would turn on my friends?
Yes.
Al, I think, is someone who would turn into a killer because he was always getting picked on really bad, but always kind of brought more and more on himself. So I can see him suddenly getting this power, suddenly getting a crossbow in his hands, and being a god. But maybe he's the one who gets the killing started.
You're saying that you would be like with the computer guys, eh?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I have friends like Matt Bolton and Adrian Dawson.
If the three of you were the last three people, and, if there are three people there at the end, you all die. It's a pretty tough one.
How do we do it? Do we do it fairly, pulling at straws? Or do we have that survival instinct?
Do you suggest pulling straws and then while they're distracted, shoot the other two?
While they're figuring out how to actually pull straws.
Yeah.
That's what it would be, except that I would be the one holding the straws. I'd be the one being like, okay, let's make this perfectly fair, all right? It's got to be objective.
Yukie, what did you want to tell us?
Nanahana told me, you see. Kawada may know a way to get off this island.
Kawada? That guy?
Can we trust them?
I don't know yet. But anyway, once Narahara can move again, let's get out of here and meet up with Kawada and Noriko and... What is it? Spit it out! Yuka!
She's dead! But how?
The way that's food poisoning, right? What food poisoning is that? Poison? Poison? Who did that?
What are you doing, Satomi?
This must be some kind of mistake, okay?
We're the only ones in this room right now! Chisato, you're the one who cooked it!
I didn't do it! Don't look at me. Haruka, help!
As if I'd do it!
It was nobody! Just stop it already! Satomi, put the gun down!
Actually, you're the most suspicious for freaking out.
Haruka!
You didn't sleep last night or the night before, did you? That means you don't trust us at all, does it?
I forgot my sleeping pills at home!
It's suspicious to have insomnia at your age.
I asked you to stop! Satomi, put the gun down!
So, Battle Royale.
Like the Hunger Games, but taking a very similar basic premise and ending up having quite a different feel of it.
Yeah, this one was funnier and darker and took itself less seriously in general.
Right, which seems weird because it was much more violent, but that was sort of part of it.
Yeah, more explicitly violent for sure. It was probably would be rated NC-17. But yeah, the themes are a little bit different. Like Hunger Games is a lot about government oppression, and this is a lot about youthful rebellion, I would say, and about adults trying to turn kids on each other.
The Hunger Games is more of a all-encompassing institution. In Battle Royale, it's not such a big part of the actual community.
So I was also thinking about the fact that we read an entire book that we decided not to do for the podcast, which actually comes earlier than this, called The Longest Walk by Stephen King. And it has similar themes as well. You could say that Battle Royale is doing the same thing as that to some degree.
Right, and it's similar in layout in terms of not a lot of explanation is given as to sort of why it's happening.
Yeah, in a world that resembles ours.
This thing is happening, and then the majority of the story is just a piece-by-piece recounting of how each person dies.
Mm-hmm. And it's a countdown, just like the Hunger Games, just like this. Mm-hmm. They literally count them down. And horrifying things happen. So the story of The Longest Walk is that it's about a competition to walk down the eastern coast of America. Just walk. No sleep. Continuously.
To keep walking until you die.
Yeah, and if your speed goes below a certain level, soldiers jump off and shoot you up.
Yeah, there's like 50 kids or 100 kids that do it.
Yeah, 100 boys.
And yeah, the last person walking at the end gets fame and fortune or whatever. We decided not to do it because it didn't really give any background information as to the world. It was just sort of this recounting of these kids walking along. But it is a pretty harrowing read.
Yeah, it's a really nasty little book. I'd recommend it if you have an afternoon and are interested in this stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we'd like to remind you that this is a Loading Ready Run podcast.
Thank you very much for listening. And a reminder that this podcast, as well as everything on Loading Ready Run, is supported by our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. The theme song is by Bradley Rains, and all the interstitial segments are by Kiara Kant. And if you want to talk to us about this podcast, you can give us feedback on our forum at loadingreadyrun.com/forum. We check that all the time, and we love hearing anything you have to say about either the podcast or the story itself. Also, if you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review it on iTunes.
Okay, yeah, and thanks for listening. I'm going to finish this off with a quote from the movie that I'm translating back from Italian subtitles. We all have a weapon, and when we have to use it, it's not an easy choice. And may the odds ever be in your favor. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ci vediamo.
Perfect.